Hey there, I'm Casey Hart. As faculty advisor in charge of Nac Edition, it's my job to train the students you see each week in all the skills and techniques needed to produce a television news magazine. This week we wanted to do something special for you, the viewers, and take you behind the scenes of Nac Edition. This week's program will feature many of the students who work on the show each week, explaining exactly how we do what we do. Nac Edition is a unique program in that most of the show is shot in the field. Each week, our students pitch ideas, shoot footage, conduct interviews, and produce pieces for air. Leah, Drew, Kyle, and Joey show how this process works and some of the things they consider as they leave the studio and hit the streets.
Ever wondered what goes into a news package for Nac Edition? To answer that question for some of our viewers, we decided to follow fellow field reporters Drew Elder and Leah Campbell while they were filming for a project to watch how they shot their news story. First, we watched how they set up the camera for the shots they wanted, taking out the camera and setting it on a tripod to help steady it so that their shots weren't shaky. They also made sure to put a mini DV tape from Sony inside the camera to record their footage and have it for later. Sony brand tapes are preferable over some of the other alternative brands as they can be recorded over several times without the tape skipping or distorting audio. Of course, sometimes they wanted to move the camera a bit more than the tripod allowed, as Leah did here, wanting to get footage of a squirrel who might have moved too quickly to catch with a tripod-mounted camera. In this case, Leah still had her camera balanced in her hands to avoid too much shaking. Later on, the group wanted to interview some students of SFA for their project and were lucky enough to find a girl willing to talk on camera as she was walking back to her car with her food. Here, they used a lavalier microphone, also called a tie-tack, to increase the quality of audio in the interview. This particular microphone is used to reduce unwanted noises around a person being interviewed. The antenna found on the box Drew is seen holding picks up radio frequencies from a box that clips on to the interviewee's person that is attached to the actual microphone. This audio is then recorded directly from the microphone so that you can hear the interviewee more clearly than any surrounding noise. Sometimes it's okay to simply use the camera's mounted microphone, but in this case, Drew and Leah wanted to focus more on her, and so they wanted to hear her audio more than any of the surrounding noise. The news cameras used for field shooting only have the ability to use one external mic. Of course, the visual element is just as important as the audio element, so we asked Drew and Leah how they like to get footage.
We have to think about the specificities of it. If you're going to get like a close-up, you have to make sure the camera's still in focus, or if you're in a wide shot, then you have to make sure everything is in the shot that you want to be in the shot.
Lighting is a big issue. You got to make sure, you got to know where your lighting is coming from. What angles to hit. Don't stay bland and have wide shots. Keep up with wide shots, close-ups, extreme close-ups. You got to tell a story.
Field shooting is one of the most important things that goes into a Nac Edition piece, as it determines how the project will look after it is edited together. For Nac Edition, I'm Joseph Stepneski.
Editing can be a very time-consuming and tedious process. Junior Kyle Rogers and Senior Joseph Stepneski gave us their perspective on editing and gave us some advice on how to succeed in editing.
Well, once we finish filming our stuff out in the field and conducting our interviews and stuff, we'll have to sign up for a time to come in here and edit. And the first thing we have to do is we have to get our DV tapes. We'll put them into the VCR and we'll open up Final Cut Pro. And you go up here to File, Log and Capture. Once it's open, see over here in this window, we would have to go through and label each clip, like time management. Just make sure you block off your time so you can come in here. And when you do come in here with a plan. Don't just sit here and say, what do I want to do next? Like, we've logged and captured our footage, and we've already got all this thing built together. All we have left to do is just export and put it onto a DVD, and we're done with this project. But other people I know several people in our class, maybe haven't even started yet or haven't started logging caption. They don't know how they want to do their story. We knew ours from the second we pitched it, and now we have it and we're pretty much done to where we can put it onto a DVD and turn it in.
Joseph Stepneski gives us a tutorial on Final Cut Pro for those of you who may be new to the program and want to learn more about it.
If you want to show like a change in time, what you can do is do a cross dissolve or some other video effect. So see how he kind of fades out and then the other image fades in. That's kind of, so let's say I want this.
And the store was named Best Caterer in the Eastern Region.
Let's say I want this picture to be a little bit shorter and drag out the next kind of clip. I can cut this clip out. I keep taking my razor blade tool, and you see how I just clicked on it right there. It's B is the razor blade tool, so I just click B on the keyboard, clicked right there. And I can move this. And then actually, if you want to extend something out, if you want to extend a part of a video, you can easily just grab from the end of it.
For Nac Edition, I'm Drew Elder.
After students have shot and edited their pieces for a particular week's Nac Edition, we bring things back into the studio here on SFA's campus to cut what we call leads. We're dedicated to giving anyone who wants to be on air the opportunity, but running a show is a team project. Christian, Ryan, Fernando, and Lisa show us that working in studio involves a lot more than just talking into a camera.
The students of the radio and TV department at Stephen F. Austin State University have something to be proud of. A new TV studio has been remodeled in the Boynton building on campus. Here's SFA senior Ryan Chamberlain with more on the renovated studio.
This year here at Stephen F. Austin, they've completely remodeled the TV station here, and having a controlled setting like this really helps us with all of our productions. Being able to have 40, 50 different lights, you can completely customize your lighting scenario, how you want that set up for things such as a talk show or maybe a newscast. Everything in here just really helps make it easier on us, having all this equipment.
The new TV studio floor has decorated sets, professional video cameras, and stage lighting rigs.
Before production starts, there's many things that all the students take part in. You want to white balance the cameras, make sure that the cameras are filtering what light they need and don't need. You're going to want to mic up the talent, and all of that can be done right up here. We've got all the cameras set up that you need on rollable dollies, so you can move those around and adjust those wherever you need to, and it'll send all of that feed straight into the control room where you can further customize whatever you want to shoot.
Television takes a three-dimensional world and condenses it to a two-dimensional medium. Usually, the anchor should wear makeup since skin is reflecting light, and the distance between host and camera should always be appropriate. Close shots make people look great. Lighting and images are manipulated to create the illusion of depth on a two-dimensional screen. The good lighting makes the anchor look nice on television. To be a professional news anchor, you must know everything that is going on at every second. Besides, the interaction with the co-anchor is also important. They should be slightly facing each other, not away from each other.
Having this newly remodeled studio is probably the biggest aspect to the success of all the productions that have been filmed here. Went from a really not the best quality painted mural to now we have a full green screen with an amazing background here. Many new lights. We've got new sound dampening equipment on the walls.
With the new TV studio, students have the privilege to get plenty of practice on recording live television and post-production. The studio has benefited students with great hands-on experience. With Nac Edition News, I'm Fernando Verver.
Here at Stephen F. Austin State University, the Radio Television Department recently updated both its control room and TV studio. Here to talk us through the control room is radio television student Fernando Verver.
In the control room is where most of the production is happening of the show that's happening in the studio. For instance, in the control room we have the audio board where we figure all add audio and the mics and all that. We have the Chiron, which is mostly for the graphics that happens for the screens behind the anchors or in the studio. we have the audio board here, which is where we figure all the levels and the UV level, excuse me, of the everybody's mic and their voices and all that here. The Chiron has worked for the graphics to go on the screen and go on the screens behind the anchors, just to give us, like for instance, a SFA logo, just any type of graphic that comes up, a lower third or anything like that. We have our brand new switcher board, which is, the last one was about, I would say about a foot long and about a foot wide. It was a small old switcher board, but this switcher board is way more high tech. The switcher board is mostly for switching from camera to camera, giving it up a pop-up box and over the shoulder. We also have where we go to the VTR, goes into B-roll film of whatever is happening in the studio. We want to go to camera 1 to one anchor, to camera 2 to the other anchor. We could also go to a green screen for if there's a weather report or anything like that. And this is where mostly all happens. Like I said, this is a brand new switcher board. It has helped out amazingly here in our productions for Purple Prize and Nac Edition. We also have where we work on the teleprompter. We write everything in for the anchors to read or hosts to read off the teleprompters. And we also have the recording computer where we record everything live. So pretty much just here in the control room. Like I said, this is mostly where all the production happens. The switcher board, especially with the new updated TV, has helped so much. We had 2 small screen monitors that we had the program and the preview on, and it was pretty hard back then, especially with the small switcher board that we have. With this one, we have so much more to use. For instance, we have the actual level to the fader, which is way more high tech. We have so many buttons we can go to, from camera 1 to camera 2 to camera 3 to even VTR, which will take us to B-roll. We have even the green screen outside. So this has helped so much more in our production. It's made things a lot easier, and it's helped the students to learn on a bigger switcher board, which you'll probably see more in the real world than what we used to have.
With upgrades complete to both the television station and the control room, students here at Stephen F. Austin now have more tools to utilize, and now the environment more accurately reflects that of an actual television studio.
Here at SFA, we not only teach students how to push buttons and run cameras, but also how to more effectively communicate on screen. This is certainly an important part of Nac Edition, and any other TV show for that matter. In this class, students take part in many drills and exercises designed to develop and cultivate these skills. Heather, Jatera, and Lady tell you a little bit more about these exercises.
When filming Nac Edition, there are a few roles that the on-camera talent are able to choose from. This includes anchoring, conducting interviews, and hosting. Here at Nac Edition, we all have the opportunity to be a host or anchor of a segment. And when serving as an anchor or host, there are a few things we must remember. The most important thing is to always articulate your words so that the viewer can smoothly follow your story. Secondly, the style of reporting used by an anchor or host depends on either the format of the production or the type of news piece.
I'm Kyle Rogers, and this is a segment we like to call You Don't Know Jax. Today we are doing a brief overview of some of the traditions here at SFA. We got the chance to interview Danielle Tharp, the Traditions Council President, and we compared her answers to those from the students out in the field.
Financial aid is available for SFA students. CDAS Gives provides an inside look into the SFA Financial Aid Office.
Gobble, gobble, gobble. It's turkey time here at Nac Edition. How do you celebrate the holiday? We talked to students at SFA to find out.
You can, of course, always tune into Nac Edition or simply pick up a copy of the Pine Log newspaper anywhere across campus. Leah Campbell took a look at how the paper is put together and spoke with students about how they use the campus newspaper. Here's what she found.
Another helpful tip is to always review your script before going on air and to do vocal exercises. This will assist you in articulation as well as recovering properly when a mistake is made.
Hey, go ahead and look over it while it's rolling.
You can also check out more student work for the student.
Hey, it's Joseph Stepneski.
Stepneski.
Stepneski, yeah.
There are other things that must be done before the cameras are rolling. All talent must be mic'd and go through a voice check to test their vocal output. Talent positioning on the set is also an important aspect before filming. The process of preparing as well as filming would not run smoothly without the floor manager. The floor manager's job is essential because they serve as the middleman between the talent and the remainder of the production crew.
At the very end, make sure you look at camera 3.
When I say stand by, stare at the camera.
Where did I look? Stand by.
As on-camera talent, a key necessity is to allow your personality to show. It is your job to keep the viewer's attention while still providing information to your audience. Being on-camera talent, you have to be versatile and be able to adapt to different story formats. While being anchor isn't a difficult job, it is one that requires concentration, relatability, and discipline.
Please feel free to follow us on Twitter at Nac_Edition. Check out updates on future shows, links to interesting material, or just tell us how we're doing.
With Nac Edition, I'm Jatera Thomas.
As I've said earlier, each Nac Edition is the result of numerous students working together. You can't pull off a show like Nac Edition without a good crew and lots of prep. It's a process, but at the end of the day, either I or my graduate assistant take all the studio pieces and all the field pieces and put them into the final form you know as Nac Edition. I met with Sherrod and Chris earlier this week, to explain just how we do it. Now, Nac Edition is an interesting show. It's a little bit different than other things you might see on Channel 2, other things that we produce here at SFA. It's a news magazine rather than necessarily a news program. The difference is, on a news program, you've got anchors, you've got the desks. Sure, it's more spontaneous. Most of our pieces are actually done out in the field rather than in the studio. It's a big difference. It gives our students an opportunity to actually put together their pieces, to go and look for the stories, to answer some questions that people might have. But how does Nac Edition actually get put together? How do we go through the process, and how do we make things happen week after week? I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. So every week, it all starts with the pitch meeting. The pitch meeting is the opportunity for the students to come in, tell us what their stories are, tell us the ideas that they have, things that they might think are interesting, unique, strange even in the community. To be able to talk about them, discuss them, and bounce some ideas off of both me as the professor and each other. It's a great thing. It's an opportunity for us to kind of vent stories, to say, okay, you might think about this. This is a good idea, but what questions do you think the viewer might have? So it starts with that. They get their assignments, they go out. Throughout the week, they go around the community or around campus, and they shoot their pieces. They interview individuals connected with it. They research their projects. They check out cameras, and then they go out and they find the stories. They bring it back to me, and then we shoot our studio leads. What the studio lead is the things that you see with individuals from the class in our studio, setting up what the stories that will then be shown on Nac Edition. From there, what happens is they turn in their projects to me. What I do is I take their projects, I take their studio leads, and we put it together into a project or a product that looks like the final draft of Nac Edition. But how do I do that? That's the question that everybody wants to know. Well, I'm going to show you.
Create a 60-second piece that will be evergreen. This means that it could literally be used at any point at any time. Ryan Chamberlain and Christopher Neff took the term to a whole other level with their pieces on the SFA Arboretum.
Alright, so this is the program we use to put everything together. It's called Final Cut. We either use the Express or the Pro version of it. Now every Nac Edition typically has 3 parts. The stories themselves, which you can see up here. And this is from the most recent week's show, by the way. The graphics, so we can have maybe our end sequence or end credits, or intro sequence. Come on. Or even our nameplates, where we can actually tell who's being interviewed and who's on screen. And then finally, our studio leads. One of the things that separates Nac Edition from some of the other shows that you might see on this station is that we actually shoot these separately. Most of the work is done in the field, so we shoot our studio leads by themselves. What I then do every week is I take all three of these pieces and I put them together in a way that actually makes sense. So we start out with our intro sequence, then we drop in our individual studio leads. Now, as you can see, it becomes kind of a long and a bit convoluted mess down here. But we actually teach our students in class how to edit these together into a meaningful way to make it look as organic and as natural as possible. So as you can see, we might start with Drew and Jatera doing our introduction. And if you guys have tuned in to Nac Edition week after week, you know that this will look familiar.
Early this semester, students in the MCM 304 class were given the assignment to create a 60-second piece that would be evergreen. This means that it could literally be used at any point at any time. Ryan Chamberlain and Christopher Neff took the term to a whole other level with their pieces on the SFA Arboretum.
So this is Lady doing her lead-in of Ryan's piece.
Welcome to the Ruby M. Mize Azalea
It says
Garden.
who Ryan is.
Situated in a shady loblolly pine forest, the garden showcases
and we can actually see the actual piece. So I go through minute after minute and I lay out the piece, a breaker, the next story, and so forth and so on. As we go down the timeline, you can actually see that we're at 4 minutes, 5 minutes long, 6 minutes, so forth and so on. Continue on through laying out every piece for that week's show, and then end with our outro sequence.
Thanks for tuning in this week's Nac Edition. Remember, you can always check out student work, even those that don't make it to air, on our
And of course,
YouTube channel,
we end it
Jack TV
with our
SFA.
information, Jack TV
You can also follow us
SFA
on
or
Twitter
Nac
at
_Edition.
_Edition. There you can comment on the show, leave us your feedback,
Way to go, Drew.
and give us story ideas.
So from all of us here, thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you next time on Nac Edition.
And then we end with our credits and so forth and so on. So the first step is laying everything out. After we lay everything out, then you have to go back and actually make the transition, so cross dissolves, which basically fade in, fade out, and then go through and check the audio levels. Over here on the right side, you can actually see a visual representation of the audio. It's always important because you don't want people to have to turn up their volume or turn down their volume, so I have to actually go through and check to make sure that every part of the show has generally the same audio levels. After that's done, I go through, I export it as a QuickTime movie that we can actually put on air, and then the sequence is done. And that's how you get a Nac Edition. Here in the Radio Television Department at SFA, we believe that the students have a unique voice that should be heard. We try to help them cultivate that voice. So with this consideration, earlier this week, several students featured here on Nac Edition had a discussion about what they've learned and what they think about their experience at SFA. Here's what they had to say about it. Jessica and CDAS produced the piece.
Hi, my name is Ladarian Cole, and today talking with me is
Drew Elder,
Joseph Stepneski,
Hi, I'm Heather Scott.
Jatera Thomas.
and Kyle Rogers.
All right, and guys, we're going to talk about what it takes as MCM 304 students to produce Nac Edition every day, and also what it takes to be a radio TV broadcast major here at SFA. So let's get started. So why did all of you guys even pick radio TV broadcast as your major in the first place?
Well, I picked it because I honestly wanted to be a sports broadcaster when I got older. I kind of look up to John Madden, Joe Buck, those kind of guys. And I never really thought I would like the radio aspect of it, but it turns out I really love the radio aspect of it. And, you know, TV is fun as well. I like being in front of the camera and stuff.
I'm very similar to Drew. I mean, I pretty much watch ESPN 24/7 whenever I'm not in class, so I like the way they report their news and the way they cover sports. And I used to play baseball, and I like being around sports. So if I could cover a sport that I love, I think I can enjoy my work that much more.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it too.
Mine's a little bit different. Growing up, I always wanted to be the next Katie Couric and be in front of the camera, behind the desk, reporting hard news, and I don't know, being an investigative journalist. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, mine is all different. I've always loved TV. I loved watching TV and trying to figure out how they make a TV show, how they make TV, basically, and that's why I chose it.
Yeah, mine was the same thing. I wanted to learn what was going on behind the camera. I've actually always wanted to be on camera, but I wanted to make sure that I had the skills, if need be, to break into the industry, maybe to do more production stuff.
See, I think if I wasn't doing sports, I'd probably do more comedy, like a Tosh point or something that I can enjoy doing. Like, doing a just straight read off a prompter, I don't think would be as fun for me, just because I like the idea of ad-libbing and just having fun, bouncing around.
That's why I like the radio so much, because you can ad-lib all the time. And
Exactly.
you can talk about interesting stuff without having to read it off a script or read off the teleprompter. And I'm kind of like you too. If I didn't do this, I might do something else on camera. Or I would probably go with journalism, being like a columnist in a newspaper or something like that.
It seems like we all have a passion for the industry by itself, whether it be radio, TV, sportcasting, entertainment news. I think our major is something that you really just have to have a passion for. So with that being said, what have everybody learned since we've been here, 4 years, 3 years for you, Kyle? I know you're a junior. What have we learned since we've been in the radio TV program?
One of the biggest things I've learned is the time management it takes to do this major. Like when you're doing productions and filming, you've got to make sure you've got it mapped out, and plus you've got all your other classes you've got to take. So you got to make sure you can get your filming and editing done around all your other classes.
It gets very tedious and time consuming sometimes.
Yeah, it does, definitely. If you don't get all your stuff time managed properly, then you're going to fall behind on other classes, and your projects might not be as good because you didn't manage your time effectively in order to get them done ahead of time, or right before the deadline and stuff like that. So
What I've learned is really kind of on-stage appearance, in front of the camera, speaking ability, writing ability.
Right.
This major, being in front of the camera is one thing, but you have to know what to say.
Exactly. And you have to learn how to be calm.
You have to learn how to be calm
a lot of people
and
when they first get in
creative.
there, they're really nervous.
Well, yeah, remember the radio TV announcing class that we all took, and we had to practice our appearance on stage or on air, making sure we were doing
that definitely helped
appropriately.
It calms my nerves. I used to be so nervous about being in front of the camera,
Every
but
time
now
you put a camera in front of someone, they just
freeze
clench
up.
up and they become nervous, and you can't do that in our major. Okay, cool. So when we leave here, guys, what do you all want to do? Why radio, TV? What job do you want to get? I know some people want to do sport casting and things like that, but Jatira, what do you want to do when you leave?
I want to do entertainment news. I like celebrity gossip, all that information. I'm a nosy person by nature, so I want to be e-news.
What about you, Joey?
I'd like to do something for Saturday Night Live, or maybe write for a comedy television show would be my favorite, but I'll know I have to break in somehow to do that.
if being behind the desk, being a news anchor doesn't really work out for me, through camera angles and like practicing with the camera and really going out and in-field shooting, I really learned how to capture like a moment, and I would really like to take that into advertising and maybe produce commercials and stuff like that, since I know what it takes now, since I've worked and I've produced stuff like that.
Yeah,
so I kind of know how it appeals to people and how I can really
yeah,
target
I
people.
think even though, like me, I started out with this major because I wanted to be an announcer, I wanted to be an anchor, I wanted to be in front of the camera, but we've learned so much more. We've learned how to edit, we've learned how to, like you said, do camera work and do all of that. So even if I don't get the chance to be in front of a camera, I can still, you know,
backup
go work.
plans.
Exactly, backup plans. I still have all these things in my back pocket that I know how to do because of these classes.
We've all learned that editing sucks.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, right.
Long.
So guys, what advice would you give to like future students that come into the radio TV program here at SFA?
Well, I would definitely tell them to, like Kyle said, time management, definitely. That's a big factor in this major, because if you don't have time management skills, then it's going to be really hard for you to succeed in all your other classes. And another thing is just don't be shy. A lot of people come in, they're really shy in front of the camera because they do get nervous, like Heather was talking about. But if you just kind of open up and come out of your shell a little bit, then it just makes it easier to talk on the radio or talk in front of the camera or something like that. So.
Well, Dr. Gruley does an SFA 101 class for like our major, and in that class, he makes each student do a 4-year plan where you kind of map out what classes you're going to take and when. And a lot of students will follow those, and just as they do them, they just check them off. So
I wish
each
I had
semester,
something like that.
Yeah, because basically each semester going in, they know what they need to take because they did it
Yeah.
their first year here as a freshman.
I would also recommend napping. Napping is very good.
I would say, more importantly, you get out of it what you put into it. When it comes to giving a presentation, volunteer to be the person who goes out and talks. Volunteer to be the person who takes the camera and goes out in the field with it, because the more experience that you have, you can take that later in life and you can really apply that to your future career as a professional. And I think really volunteering and putting yourself out there is my biggest advice to anybody wanting to pursue a degree in radio TV.
One thing that I learned today from a guest speaker we had, Natalie Woods, she's a graduate from here, is that you have to be hungry. Like, you have to go out and get it. Like, because everything isn't, especially in our field, everything isn't going to be handed to you, you know, on a silver platter. You're going to start, you know, in some crummy places after graduation, but if you're hungry and if you keep pushing and if you know what you want to be, like a sportscaster or entertainment, you know, anchor, anything like that, you have to be hungry. You have to
be proactive.
It. Exactly. You have to be proactive because nobody's just going to give it to you.
You have to practice. This major comes with repetition. I find that when I first started editing, I was not very good at it at all. And I used to complain about it all the time, but through practicing and repetition, I've been able to really master a lot of the skills that I was really lacking on previously in the semester.
Also, just getting to know some of the students in your class, because, you know, I've been with Drew in every class since I was a freshman here on campus. So I've gotten to know him, and, you know, it's group projects. Me and him will get together and work on it because we've known each other for so long. We know how each other work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So guys, how would you say that taking the classes that we have in radio TV program has prepared us for the real world experience, as far as like with the projects that we have to do, you know, everything? How has it prepared us?
I would definitely say that in the real world, it's nothing like in college. Because in college, you know, teachers might push back the due date or something like that. But sometimes in class, they'll be like, all right, this is due next week. If you don't get it done, you get a 0. Even if you have other stuff you have to do, you have to get this project done. And you're under a time, so big of a time crunch that in the real world that you're not going to have time to, you're not going to have your bosses be like, oh, I need to push back the date. I need more time. Yeah, there's no babying. No one's going to, you know, put sugar on it for you. So
sometimes you have to like completely change your story. Like one time, me and Kyle were planning on getting this event where they were going to release this book called The Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and then when I got there, there was like nobody there. There was no parents to sign release forms. So we just had to change our story. So I mean, you're going to have to do that in the real world, probably.
That happened to you on Purple Pride last year,
it happened to me on my Purple Pride. My guy couldn't come in, so I had to go film it in the field. And when I was editing it, his audio somehow got all kind of like corrupted and got all messed up. So I had to actually pull off these strings. He had to push back a meeting. He had to come in the studio, in the same studio here, and, you know, we had to redo it like a day later.
Oh, and definitely. I remember this one time I was hosting a show. It was last year, and just be prepared. In the real world, you know, you're gonna have to ad-lib a lot of stuff on camera or in front of the mic, and so I was asking all the questions, and I ran out of questions. And so I had 11 minutes left in the show, and I ran out of questions, so I had to just think of like at least 20 questions on the top of my head. So that'll help you in the real world for sure.
I've learned that I can do this, and applying it to my professional career. I've watched newscasts and stuff like that. I've watched local newscasts, you know, worldwide newscasts, and I look at that, and through my training in this degree, I've realized I can totally do that too.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned backup plans. You and Drew, I think, both touched on that. Even if, say, you want to be a news anchor and it doesn't work out, you've learned editing, we've learned shooting and all these other classes, so you're still that much more marketable for that news company when you're applying for a job with them.
Right. All right, guys, so real quick, I just want everybody to give like a short sentence to the teachers, like telling them what you want to tell them as far as preparing us. I mean, all of us are leaving, so what would you say to our professors?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Even though it may seem tough at first, in the real world, like I was touching on, you're not going to get, you know, times to push back the dates, and no matter how hard you persuade your bosses, they're just going to be like, nope, sorry, dude, you gotta do it.
Big thank you. All right, guys, well, thanks for talking with me today, and once again, thanks for working on Nac Edition and making it such a great project as it is. This is Ladari and Cole.
So that's it for the last Nac Edition of this semester. I'd like to thank all the students who made this possible and worked so hard week after week to produce this show. If you think you'd be interested in a career in broadcasting, or if you're just curious about our facilities or our staff, please look us up on SFA's website under the heading of Global Media and Contemporary Culture. Remember, you can always follow us on Twitter at @Nac_Edition. where you can leave your feedback and story ideas. You can also check out more student work on our YouTube channel. Just search Jack TV SFA. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next semester with a new crew and new episodes of Nac Edition.